Does anyone remember this Pontiac Grand Am that I just worked on maybe like a month ago, maybe a little bit longer? Well, it's back. Just got towed in actually because it's a no crank. I'm suspecting a starter because the last time I was down there changing the knock sensor, I could see that the starter was completely covered in oil, so it was just a matter of time. But look at that starter, completely drenched in oil, and look at the connections on it. Don't look so hot. So it's a matter of time before the starter fails. But let's go through the steps and figure out what's wrong with it. So let's verify that it won't start. Hear a very loud click coming from the starter. So that tells me that we are getting power to the starter, like the S terminal. We have a ground and a power feed. Now, yes, there could be voltage drop somewhere, and that's what we're going to test for. And you'll notice is the dome light is on. Okay, so this is a good indication if you have a weak battery. So I'm going to go ahead and try to start it, and we'll keep an eye on this. If the light dims down, that's, like I said, indication of a weak battery. So you could hear that clicking. I'm attempting to start it, and that light stays nice and bright. So I'm not suspecting a weak battery, but we're gonna go check it anyway. All right, so I got my leads connected to the battery. As you can see, we are at about 11.9 volts. That's a little bit low, nothing crazy, but that's because the car actually stopped starting maybe 3 or 4 days ago, and it's been sitting ever since. So what I'm going to try first is just simply putting a jump starter on it, see if it makes a difference. I'm sure it won't because it looks like they've already tried jump starting it, but we'll find out. And I got my jump starter connected. Let's try to start it. And same exact thing, nothing. Alright, so let's check for voltage drop. As you can see, I got one of my leads right here on the battery positive, and the other end is on the stud of the battery positive going to the starter. I'm actually using my new leads that are super long. I'm loving it. So we could just go ahead and put this right here. We could even take it in the car if we wanted to, but it's super easy to look at it from there. So let's turn the key and see if we have any voltage drop. Alright. I'm not seeing any voltage drop. Try it again. Alright, so looks good to me. Alright, so I actually saw a little bit of smoke come from the starter, and I could actually smell. You smell that? Get a good whiff of it. It smells like something's burning. Alright, obviously coming from the starter. Now let's just test voltage drop on the ground side. We'll do that first. We're already set up and we're already here. Okay, so I'm grounded directly on the starter housing. We are on battery negative. Go ahead and check for another voltage drop. Why do I keep putting the key in my pocket? I have no idea. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the key now. Try it one more time. Okay, so no voltage drop. The last thing I want to do is manually turn the engine over, because I've had that happen to me once. I didn't get burned on it. I did figure out that that the engine was no good before replacing the starter, but it's definitely a possibility. Like I said, it's happened to me. So don't be quick to throw a starter just because the engine doesn't want to crank over. Always make sure that the engine can physically turn over. And if you're wondering how something like that even happens, what I just told you about, well, it was I think it was a Oldsmobile Alero. It had crazy rod knock, and eventually it threw a rod. Okay, so when it threw the rod, it locked up the engine. Okay, the engine could not rotate anymore. So we got the same exact clicking out of it, and the owner wanted me to put a starter on the car, but it turns out the engine doesn't want to rotate because it's locked up, and there was actually nothing wrong with the starter. So you got to be careful not to get burned on something like that. So I'm going to come on this side where the crank is at, and we're going to try to rotate the engine. Alright, so it's a little difficult to get to that crank bolt from up here. There just isn't much space. So I'm actually going to jack up the car right here, remove this wheel. Alright, so once again I'm going to use the air jack because it's quick. And there we go. That's all we need. So let's go ahead and remove this wheel. Get this out the way. Alright, so as you can see, I got the wheel off, and all I have to do is pull down this little panel right here, and then you get great access to the crank pulley. And I've already cranked it over by hand a full revolution, and the engine turns just fine. As you can see, engine spins just fine, no problems at all. So at this point, that's it. Starter is bad, it's going to need a new starter. So just as I suspected, let's go down here and look at it, and I'll show you what I was talking about. Well, you know what, I'm not going to get underneath the car because I don't have a jack stand. Do not get underneath the car when only this thing is holding it up, okay? But you're gonna have to believe me that the starter is completely covered in oil, and once I get it off the car, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Alright, so as you can see, it's getting dark out here. I got my light up here, got my headlamp on, the car is up on jack stands, and just starting to remove the starter. Honestly, it's not too bad of a job. So the starter is right there, you got plenty of access to it. As you can see, I already started removing it, and you can see what I was talking about, all the oil that's on it. So let me finish tearing out the starter. We already got the new one. The owner went to Advanced Auto Parts, and I could not believe that the starter for this car is about $220. That's crazy. I would not be happy if I had to put that much money into a turd like this. Especially considering on Rock Auto you could get a new starter for about $80 or $70, something like that. So yeah, $220, that's pretty steep. Alright, so I got the old starter off of the car, so here's the new one. It matches up. Just gonna go ahead and remove these nuts right now. It's a lot easier while it's off the car. Alright, so I got the new starter installed and everything is connected. I'm just gonna go ahead and spray these electrical connectors with some CRC corrosion inhibitor. Nothing crazy, but it just kind of protects from all the corrosion that goes on over here. At this point, I'm just gonna go ahead and put the air box back on it, reconnect the battery, and let's give it a crank. Everything is reconnected. Go ahead and see if it'll start. There we go. Started right up, and it sounds like crap. But it starts. Let's try it again. It actually started up pretty quick too. That new starter's putting in overtime. Alright guys, so that's just about it. I'm happy it got fixed quickly. Yeah, because the tow truck person just kind of dropped it off in my driveway right in front of my garage, even though I didn't tell him to leave it here. And I was eager to get this one fixed because it's blocking my garage. If you're blocking my garage, I can't get other cars in here to work on. Got other cars lined up for tomorrow, so this was not going to be able to stay here all night. So that's why I had to get this fixed, even though it's dark outside. But I'm happy. Everything went pretty smooth. It was pretty straightforward. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Hit that thumbs up button, and see you guys next time.